Hey, I want to welcome our viewers. This isn't Kennesaw Happenings since we're not in Kennesaw. We're actually up and down the East Coast. But Liz was recommended that for us by Barbara and Andrea, and some of our viewers know who Barbara and Andrea are. So Liz, when we talked, and all of a sudden she sent me the information. Oh my golly, she's grew up and has some connection to Pebble Beach. So we're going to have some fun. And I put on my golf hat because I usually don't wear a golf hat. But my friend, I was down in Tampa and he gave me this as Annika has a special tournament down there. And so he gave me a golf shirt and a hat. So I'm wearing it for him, but we're gonna have some fun. So Liz, tell our viewers who you are, what you do, and who you serve, and then we'll get into the podcast.
Sure. Yes, my name is Liz Fackelman. I am a certified productive environment specialist, and I live in the college town of Davidson, North Carolina, which is just north of Charlotte. Mm-hmm. I have been a professional organizer since 2012. And then, yes, I met Barbara. I met Barbara early in my career. She was a bit of a mentor. And mm-hmm. I was using their methods for office organizing. And then I added on, I actually got certified and joined their institute as a certified specialist. And so I do in-home and in-office organizing as well as the virtual with them. But as an organizer, as organized as I am, I even do move management. When I was working with my own mother, mm-hmm. who is a renowned amateur golfer, with her downsizing, I felt overwhelmed. I didn't know what her stuff was worth, mm-hmm. how to sell it. Mm-hmm. And so when I am working with when I work with my clients typically come to me because they're overwhelmed. Okay. So as Barbara says, if you see a problem that you can solve, in my case, I had a problem. I needed to solve it for myself as mm-hmm. the organizer. And so what I did is I joined a group called the Keys Guild. The Keys Guild is set up to help people who have unwanted items that they think might be worth something and connect them with the experts who can help them sell it. So I hear from my clients, should I donate this? Or do you think it's worth some money? Or I have no idea what this is worth and I have no idea where to sell it. Or they say, my grandmother gave this to me, so I don't want to just donate it. And mm-hmm. so through the Keys Guild and the training I got in 2020 and ongoing training, I answer those questions for my overwhelmed clients. And I can appreciate their situation because I was in that situation right before I joined the Keys Guild with my mother as she was downsizing from a 2-bedroom apartment down to assisted living and then the final to skilled nursing. And a lot of the things that she had were trophies, which I have displayed behind me.
Yes, I like that one we talked before we went on the air, the putter trophy, and so we'll definitely ask you about that as we get into the podcast. Tell our viewers, like you mentioned, did you say Keys Guild? What is that?
Well, the Keys Guild was started in 2020 by a guy who had been helping his clients sell things and figure out, all this stuff is just collecting dust. How can I sell it? So it was created to bridge the gap between those individuals with these unwanted items in their home. And we have a network of organizing professionals across the country, as well as experts. So mm-hmm. I can contact a guy with the Antique Roadshow. I can send him photos. I can find out some ideas of values within a day. The general public doesn't have access to that. Right. I have access to the foremost expert in Asian art that mm-hmm. I can reach. His name is Lark Mason. I can reach him or his son and get expert advice. I had a client who had a rare Elvis photo, and it was truly rare. She had done her research, and I want to talk a little bit about how people can do their research ahead of time so they're not mm-hmm. paying me to have to do all that research. She did the research. We knew it was valuable. It was rare. It was one of a kind. There was no other photo exactly like it in existence. And I reached out to one of my experts, and he said, this auction is the best auction for that, and it should go for $900 to $1,000.
Wow. I think because I live in a senior facility and it's 55 and older, but it's north of 55 by quite a bit. So I hear the challenges. They move in. If I've seen one, I've seen a half a dozen movers taking things back onto the truck. It's like we have this idea that we're going to move from a house to an apartment, and we want to bring everything with us. Not only do we want to bring everything with us, we have no earthly idea what some of this stuff is worth. And so, you hear these stories that Goodwill finds this valuable this, and it's like, I can understand why it happens, because you're trying to get rid of things as you get a little older. You can't fit it in an apartment. So what are you seeing, like when you're able to identify things? Are you like taking everything that they think that they don't know the value of it? Or are you sitting down with them and they're giving you pictures? What does that scenario look like?
Typically, I try to identify, or I train people on what are the most likely hidden categories in their home of treasures. This is typically jewelry. I had a client who was expecting $300 for her jewelry. Some of it was broken. A lot of it was costume jewelry. It covered an entire dining room table. I paid her $5,800.
Wow.
That was a hidden treasure. And because jewelry is small, it is easy to ship. I have dozens of ways that I sell it, including going straight to the refineries. So I cut out the middleman. I will always pay more than a jewelry store will, because they have high overhead. And so I often will take things straight to the refinery if the refinery will pay me more than I can get for my clients elsewhere. I don't take Tiffany things to the refinery. I know how to make those calculations through my training. Silver is another hidden treasure. And typically the younger generation does not want grandma's sterling flatware. I know I have 5 children. They're all adults. None of them want the silver. They don't want to polish it. They don't value it. And so in some cases, I have already sold off some of the sterling silver. But I've kept a few. It's like this trophy is sterling silver. It is valuable to me because it's from Menlo Golf Country Club, and it has my great grandparents' names on it. They won the trophy. And so my great grandparents. So that has value to me.
That's crazy good.
This is a trophy that also has value to me. It is sterling silver, but it's wrapped in some kind of antique vintage leather stuff. And this is the kind of research that, your audience can do on their own. They can look up and you do a Google image search, which is what I did. I did a Google image search, see if I could find something that was similar. And, I found something on eBay. It said magnificent 1900 Art Nouveau American sterling silver trophy. It was listed for $3,500. Very similar. Now, it was listed for $3,500. It has never sold. That doesn't mean what it's worth. And that's another key, is you can certainly, the fact that it was selling for $3,500 only tells me I can't price it higher. I can't price mine higher than what something else is selling for. But it doesn't tell me what somebody will buy it for. And so when you look at eBay listings, for example, you then filter them on sold, completed, and then that will show you what they have sold for. And so I encourage my clients to do some research, use a Google image search, identify what the item is, and then use something like eBay. There's also a free resource called Live Auctioneer, liveauctioneer.com. You can set up a free account. You do not need to enter your payment card, and you can research on hundreds and hundreds of auctions houses and what things have sold for, looking at their price results.
Do you think that I had no idea that this type of thing existed? And I'm living in a senior, so they bring in all their stuff. I hear I've got 3 sets of china, I've got this stuff, and they don't know what to do with it, and they're just like, I know we have the junk removal people that stay pretty busy, but in that junk is going to be treasures. So if you don't know what you don't know, you're removing treasures and putting it in the Goodwill or whatever organization you're doing, sending it to. What would you say? I'm always curious about this. How is China? Because we perceived it more than our kids. So what are you doing in that area? They have 3 sets of China. What are they doing with that?
China is an example of supply and demand, just simple economics, if you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
The younger generation doesn't want something that they can't put in the dishwasher. They don't do as much formal entertaining. And so the demand is lower. At the same time, the market is flooded with seniors who are downsizing or have passed away, and their children don't want the China. And so the supply and demand simply makes the price go lower.
Okay.
When somebody is downsizing drastically, let's say they're moving from, a home like we're in the 55 and up community,
Mm-hmm.
or even moving to a 55 and up. When you're doing a lot of downsizing, your best solution is a local auctioneer or a very reputable estate or tag sale company. Estate sale means the owner has died. Tag sale means they're alive. That is a totally unregulated business. So sometimes you need to use an auctioneer, which is regulated. But if I can identify, and that's one of my jobs I do, is to figure out, well, which is the most reputable, which company will do the best.
Mm-hmm.
That will sell your china, your crystal, your furniture, household items. They will even sell half-used cleaning supplies. It's my job to identify the items that won't do well in that tag sale. And I will pull them out before the tag sale and sell them in another way. And this is typically the jewelry.
Mm-hmm.
I even have tag sale company that drops the jewelry off before the tag sale at my home, and I pay them before the end of the sale. Typically, they're weekend sales, because I will pay them more than they can sell it for.
Right.
So jewelry,
Mm-hmm.
always your silver. Art that's $1,000 or more on the resale market. Really unique items, such as the Putterboy trophy. The Putterboy trophy is priceless because families, once somebody has one, their family never lets it out of their home. They're priceless. That, if I were to sell it, requires a global audience, not a local audience.
Right.
Sterling silver, I said, I will pull, and I don't recommend selling it in your local tag sale. That's where I can do better for you. But silver plate, which the plant I have is sitting in a trophy that my mom won, that's silver plate. That silver plate trophy is worthless. It's worth basically 50 cents a pound. It has my mom's name on it. Nobody will want it at Goodwill. The most somebody could do with it is paint over it or something and make it so you don't have to polish it.
Right.
And so that is the best solution, with the caveat that there are some items that won't do well in a tag sale. And therefore, that's where somebody comes to me and I help them decide where else those things could be sold.
Yeah, I love when you're talking about the do-it-yourselfers, which is fine, but your expertise is the evaluation and giving people a better return. Because if you don't know what you don't know, you're not going to be able to value it correctly. And I'm always leery of the unregulated areas of our businesses, because unregulated means what it says. And so you have honest people and you have dishonest people. That's just the way it is. So when you're looking at, you said state sales and tag sales, tell our viewers again. I just want to
estate sales, as in somebody has passed away. It's their estate needs to be cleared out. And so those are not regulated. So you want to make sure you're using a reputable one that's come highly recommended. Auctioneers can auction everything off too, and they are a regulated industry. Again, my job is to identify and talk with a client and say what things don't belong in that sale. China will do the best. China is just really hard to sell. That is the place to sell it. Furniture is hard to sell. That's the way. In general, you're thinking in terms of what your values are, in terms of, do you need a turnkey solution? Are you running out of time? Do you need to move in 2 weeks? We have to think through, your how much time you have to sell things and how much effort you want to put into it. Typically, people come to me when they don't want to put their own effort into it, and they are overwhelmed.
So with that in mind, so what is your experience has been? Should somebody contact you, how far in advance to get the most value out of your expertise? When would somebody need, if they're making that move to a 55 and older community or to an apartment, which is where we live here down here, so it's a smaller footprint. What's our time frame of people? What do they need to be thinking about?
A year. Seriously.
Really? Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
No, I mean,
and in fact, there's this concept called the gentle art, or it's a book, The Gentle Art of Swedish Death Cleaning. And the author says, she's telling seniors, don't imagine that anyone will be able to or want to schedule time off to take care of what you didn't bother to take care of yourself. It's your duty to sort out your life. It's your duty to deal with your stuff ahead of time. I know you were talking about moves, and I'm talking about what happens if someone passes away. Their children are left with it all and overwhelmed. But the sooner you can, most people never start in it, far enough in advance. I inherited from the 1800s, my great-great-grandparents' tables. It took me probably a whole year to find somebody on Facebook Marketplace that was legitimate and that wanted and liked the style. It was very thick, heavy, dark mahogany wood tables. And it took a while to find the right buyer. So the more time you have, that helps. I did have a client call me in for move management 2 weeks before they were moving into assisted living because of a medical emergency. And I had to just have their moving company haul everything off to one auction house. I pulled a few items. It was their jewelry. It would be their silver. They had a few collectibles that I could sell for them on auction houses and do better for them. But in general, when you don't have the time, you're not going to make as much money.
Right. That makes, planning is, everything. Are you talking to the kids of the parents or the parents? Tell our viewers, like, the areas that you serve when it comes to, the consultation piece. Are they two very specific areas that we're talking about?
I work with both. Typically, I work when people are overwhelmed. So it could be the person that's moving, that's overwhelmed. They typically are running out of time. They don't, like you said, they want to take everything and they can't. A good move manager would have already planned out the floor plan and know where furniture is going to go. But I also have been working with the children who are overwhelmed, like I was, dealing with my mom's stuff and not knowing what things are worth, and not having the time. Typically, people who have busy jobs, they don't have the time to deal with their parents' stuff, and they're frustrated that their parents didn't deal with it, and they don't know what their parents' stuff is. And typically, like my daughter, I don't wear gold jewelry, so my mom gave her gold jewelry to my daughter. My daughter just took it to a pawn shop, which is not the best solution. And again, this was before I joined the Keys Guild.
Right.
But my thought is that your children may not make the most out of your items.
Yeah.
They may not want them. They typically don't. That's typically a hard discussion to say, no, I do not want this. And some parents aren't very good at hearing that. So it's best. I do deal with both sides. Mm-hmm. I really can't say that I differentiate.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And just curious because I listen to what people say around here, and I've learned so much by being around a community of, I don't know, I've heard that the average age here is 80. So, that's a little bit different than 55. When I moved in here, it said 55 and older. I said, hey, yeah, 55. But it was a little bit more than 55. So tell me, I know from us talking, and I read over a little bit of your information, you are from an area this is for my golfers. And I actually put a golf hat on because of it. You grew up in the Pebble Beach area. So what was that like? I mean, that's a pretty special and beautiful part of the country.
Yes, I was born to two amateur golfers. At the time I was born in 1964, they were at the top of their field or top of their game.
Mhm.
We lived in Mountain View in Silicon Valley now. And my parents decided to move to Pebble Beach. Now we're in the poorer section of Pebble Beach, not the
Yeah.
mansions. My parents were members of Monterey Peninsula Golf
Okay.
and Country Club. But Pebble Beach Golf Course was kind of my stomping grounds. As a teenager, I would go to Carmel, which is the neighboring town, and
Yep.
that was how I got there. Was through the golf course that was between Pebble Beach and Carmel. I had the opportunity as a child to be at many of the golf tournaments. I did scorekeeping for Johnny Miller,
Mhm.
and met a lot of the top golfers, I guess. But golf wasn't my thing; it was my parents' thing.
Right.
So I can't say that I remember. Did I meet Jack Nicklaus? I know he was my mom's friend, but I don't know if I actually
Right.
met him.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, that place is so special, and I've had a chance to play it. I know the front nine, which is the easier nine. My jaw was like down to my waist, and I'm, of course, not concentrating. And so my score on the front nine was higher, much higher than the back nine. So once I got to the back nine, which takes you off the coast, I settled down and I played pretty good. But yeah, that was 40 years ago, but I remember so much about that course. I mean, every shot, I remember shots 40 years later. So yes, it does have a kind of a memory that you just never forget. How many years were you out there and when did you move to the East Coast?
Yes, so I moved there when I was 4 from Mountain View, and then I went to college at Duke University out
Okay.
in North Carolina. And my parents at that time also moved to River Hills, which is in South Carolina, is a golfing community.
Mhm.
And so I have been since the early 80s. I have been in North Carolina.
Wow. Now, you said Duke, which we know is blue. And before we came on, I know our viewers will notice this. You have the most beautiful eyes I have ever seen, and they're blue and they're did just going to Duke, you said, all right, I'm going to match my eyes to the college I go to?
No, they're my father's eyes. Anybody who knew my
Yeah.
father, Jay Hopkins, he had amazing blue eyes.
Yes.
Thank you, though. Yeah,
Yeah.
I went to engineering school. The degree would now be called computer engineering, but
Okay.
back then it was electrical engineering with a computer minor.
Right.
And I worked for many years until I started raising my family. Took 23 years off to raise and be a stay-at-home mom. And then when I started my career in 2012, that's when I pivoted and decided to start my own business as a professional organizer.
Yeah. How did that training help you when you jump back into the force? Because being out 23 years is not like a year off. So there's a lot of technology that changes. There's a lot of things that happen. What was that like? Was it scary, like coming back after being like a mom for 23 years?
Well, you don't just do nothing when you're a mom. And so I was
Right.
organizing my family. I was developing skills as a professional and as professional skills in volunteer opportunities I was doing. And the things that make me excellent as an engineer can translate over to making me excellent as a professional organizer because there's a
Yeah.
lot of spatial. I can tell when somebody is trying to put too much into a closet or too much into a room. Good spatial skills is helpful for engineering, and it translates really well for me being able to design and organize and declutter spaces.
Wow, that is so good. Now, we knew you had a busy schedule, and I wanted just to give our viewers a little of idea because when Andrea and Barbara refer people, I know it's going to be top notch. So if you'll agree to come back, because I really want to dive deeper into the evaluation of things and really helping our seniors, understand that how far out they need to start planning to get the most out of that transition. So if you'll agree to come back, we'll go dive deeper into that, because I know our viewers would love to get, you gave a lot of value, and I'm going to ask this question about how do people get a hold of you, but I would like to take it another step down the road if you're okay with that.
Sure. Yeah, my website is davidsonorganizing.com. I did simple SEO, search engine optimization, by naming it after the town I'm in, which is the town of Davidson, the college town of Davidson. And on that website are several pages. The last page is resources, and there are some downloads. There's a moving guide. It's free. There are tips for identifying things of value. That is also free. There's a page just devoted to collectibles advising where people can learn more about me. Certainly, there's a page for my office organizing, which I do virtually as well as in person. So lots of free resources on my website, and you can schedule a free call just to get started on my website.
Awesome. And for those that are driving, that are audio bound people, we'll put it in the show notes so you can easily get to it. So Liz, what would you say with our time today? What would be the one thing that you'd want our listeners to take home from our time together?
I think it's important to have a trusted resource. I feel that I've been successful doing this time of consulting on people's valuables because people trust me. And part of that is because they're my clients. I've been organizing with them. Sometimes I've been working with them for a year, helping them get ready for a move and decluttering and preparing. And so we already have this established relationship. Certainly my neighbors trust me. But just as we were talking about those estate and tag sales companies that are not regulated, it's important that if you're going to hire someone, that you have developed, that they've come from a referral. Somebody has used them, and multiple people have used them. So finding trusted resources, because there are people out there that are trying to swindle seniors and take advantage of them. Yep. Selling your jewelry to a jewelry store, they're not taking advantage of you, but they also are not paying you what your jewelry is usually in silver is worth. So that would be the one thing I would want to leave with listeners, especially when the seniors, is you just want to be very careful about who you are trusting, and research them ahead of time.
Well, thank you so much, Liz. And thank you for Barbara and Andrea for pointing you our way, because we definitely need, that expertise of that, transition. It's a scary thing when you're transitioning. And if you don't have somebody to come alongside you, it's like anything, you're going to fall into the potholes out there. So thanks so much, Liz, for being with us. And we look forward to having you back.
Okay, great.